In the vibrant, bustling port city of Busan, where the scent of the sea mingled with the aroma of street food, there lived a young woman named Era. She was known for her fiery spirit and her deep connection to the ocean, a bond whispered to be more than just a love for the waves. Era was, in fact, the Dragon King's daughter, though she lived among humans, unaware of her true heritage. Era's life was a blend of the ordinary and the extraordinary. She worked as a diver, harvesting seaweed and shellfish, her lithe form moving through the water with an effortless grace that seemed almost otherworldly. But she also had a peculiar ability to communicate with marine life, a gift that set her apart from the other divers. The fish would gather around her, the dolphins would playfully nudge her, and the octopuses would curiously extend their tentacles, as if acknowledging her as one of their own. One day, while diving near a secluded cove, Era stumbled upon an ancient, ornate chest. It was partially buried in the sand, its surface covered in barnacles and seaweed, hinting at its age and the secrets it held. Curiosity piqued, Era managed to pry open the chest, revealing a dazzling array of treasures, pearls that shimmered like captured starlight, jewels that glowed with an inner fire, and artifacts that seemed to hum with an ancient energy. Among the treasures, Era found a beautiful, intricately carved comb made of what looked like pure jade. It was adorned with delicate sea creatures and seemed to pulse with a faint, warm light. Intrigued, Era tucked the comb into her hair, unaware that she had just claimed a powerful artifact, a relic of her true lineage. As soon as the comb touched her hair, Era was flooded with visions, images of a magnificent underwater palace, of majestic dragons soaring through the depths, and of a regal figure, her father, the Dragon King. The visions were overwhelming, revealing the truth of her heritage and the destiny that awaited her. Era was stunned, her mind reeling from the revelation. She had always felt a deep connection to the sea, but she never imagined she was the daughter of its ruler. Now, she was faced with a choice: remain in the human world she knew and loved, or embrace her destiny and return to the underwater kingdom. Torn between two worlds, Era sought guidance from an old woman named Halmini, a shaman known for her wisdom and her ability to commune with the spirits. Halmini listened to Era's story, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "The sea calls to you, child," Halmini said, her voice raspy but gentle. "It is in your blood, in your heart. But the choice is yours. You must decide where you belong." Era pondered Halmini's words, her heart heavy with indecision. She loved her life in Busan, her friends, her work, the vibrant energy of the city. But the visions of the underwater kingdom, the call of her father, the pull of her heritage, were growing stronger, more insistent. In the end, Era's love for the sea, her connection to her true family, and the yearning to explore her heritage proved too strong to resist. She decided to embrace her destiny and return to the underwater kingdom. With a heavy heart, Era bid farewell to her friends in Busan, promising to never forget them. She then ventured into the secluded cove where she had found the chest, the jade comb in her hair glowing softly. As she plunged into the depths, the comb began to resonate, creating a swirling vortex of water that led her to the hidden entrance of the Dragon King's palace. The underwater kingdom was even more magnificent than she had seen in her visions. The palace was a breathtaking spectacle of coral and pearls, illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent creatures. Dragons of all shapes and sizes swam through the corridors, their scales shimmering like 1,000 rainbows. And there, on a throne of pure jade, sat her father, the Dragon King, his eyes filled with love and longing. Era was welcomed with open arms, embraced by her father and her newfound family. She learned about her heritage, about the ancient magic that flowed through her veins, and about the responsibilities that came with being the Dragon King's daughter. But Era never forgot her life in Busan, her human friends, the vibrant energy of the city. She often returned to the surface, disguised as a human, to visit her friends, to share stories of the underwater kingdom, and to remind them of the bond they shared. And so, Era, the Dragon King's daughter of Busan, lived a life between two worlds, bridging the gap between the sea and the shore, between magic and humanity, forever bound to both, forever loved by both. The air in the village of Elderbrook crackled with anticipation. Elara, the blacksmith's daughter, was to wed Liam, the baker's son. Garlands of wildflowers adorned every doorway, the scent of honeysuckle mingled with the yeasty aroma of Liam's celebratory bread, and laughter echoed through the cobblestone streets. Elara, radiant in a gown her mother had painstakingly sewn, felt a flutter of nervous excitement in her stomach. Liam, beaming, waited for her at the altar beneath the ancient oak that served as the village's heart. But beneath the surface of joy, a shadow lurked. Old Man Hemlock, the village recluse, had been seen muttering about omens and ill tidings. He'd always been an odd sort, living alone in the woods, his pronouncements usually dismissed as the ramblings of a lonely man. However, his words, "A wedding and a death shall intertwine," had chilled the air despite the summer heat. Elara tried to dismiss the unease that crept into her heart. It was her wedding day, a day for happiness, not fear. She focused on Liam's warm smile, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he laughed, the gentle strength of his hands. He was her anchor, her safe harbor in the swirling tides of life. The ceremony began. The village elder, his voice resonant and kind, spoke of love and commitment, of building a life together, brick by brick, like Liam built his ovens and Elara forged her steel. Elara and Liam exchanged vows, their voices trembling slightly with emotion. They slipped rings onto each other's fingers, simple bands of iron for Elara, and silver for Liam, symbolizing their union. As they turned to face the cheering crowd, a sudden gust of wind swept through the village, extinguishing the candles and scattering the flower petals. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers. Old Man Hemlock stood at the edge of the crowd, his face gaunt, his eyes filled with a strange intensity. He raised a gnarled hand, pointing a trembling finger at Elara. "The sacrifice is chosen," he croaked, his voice raspy and chilling. Before anyone could react, a massive branch from the ancient oak, weakened by a hidden rot, snapped and fell. It hurtled towards Elara, a deadly projectile aimed at her heart. Liam, reacting instinctively, shoved Elara aside, taking the full force of the falling branch himself. The joyous cheers turned into screams of terror. Liam crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Elara, stunned and horrified, knelt beside him, her wedding dress stained with his blood. The villagers rushed forward, carrying Liam into the nearest house. The celebration was over. The wedding had become a vigil. Elara, her heart a leaden weight in her chest, refused to leave Liam's side. She bathed his wounds, whispering words of love and encouragement, praying for a miracle. The village healer, a woman named Martha, did what she could, but Liam's injuries were severe. As the hours ticked by, Alara's fear grew. Old Man Hemlock's prophecy echoed in her mind, a wedding and a death shall intertwine. Was Liam's life the price of their happiness? The villagers gathered outside the house, their faces etched with worry. The festive atmosphere had been replaced by a somber silence. The scent of celebration had turned acrid with the smell of fear. Inside, Alara held Liam's hand, her tears falling silently onto his pale skin. She remembered the moment they had met years ago, when she had accidentally set his hair on fire while trying to mend a horseshoe. He had laughed, his eyes twinkling, and she had known, in that instant, that her life would be forever intertwined with his. As dawn approached, a faint stirring came from the bed. Liam's eyelids fluttered open. He looked at Alara, his eyes filled with confusion and then love. "Alara," he whispered, his voice weak. Alara gasped, relief flooding through her. He was alive. He would live. But as she looked at Liam, she noticed something strange. A small, almost invisible splinter of oak had lodged in his hand, close to his heart. It was the same kind of wood as the fallen branch. Martha, examining Liam, confirmed Alara's fears. The splinter was poisoned, a slow-acting toxin from the heartwood of the ancient oak. There was no known antidote. Despair washed over Alara. Liam had been saved from the falling branch, only to be condemned by a poisoned splinter. The wedding and the death were indeed intertwined, not as she had feared, but in a crueler, more insidious way. Alara refused to give up. She remembered Old Man Hemlock, his knowledge of the woods, his strange connection to the ancient oak. She ran to his cabin, ignoring the fear that gnawed at her. She found him sitting by his fire, his eyes closed. He looked up as she entered, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. "The oak," Alara pleaded, her voice hoarse, "you know its secrets. Is there a way to save him?" Hemlock remained silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "The life of the oak can heal what it has harmed," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "But the price is steep." He explained that only a ritual, performed at the base of the ancient oak at midnight, could draw out the poison. But the ritual required a sacrifice, a life for a life. Alara's heart sank. She knew what she had to do. As midnight approached, Alara returned to the ancient oak. The villagers watched in stunned silence as she prepared for the ritual. She laid out herbs and flowers, chanting the ancient words Hemlock had taught her. Then, she took a knife, the same knife she used to forge her steel, and held it to her own heart. She would offer her life for Liam's. But as she was about to plunge the knife into her chest, Liam appeared, his face pale but determined. He had heard about the ritual, and he refused to let Alara sacrifice herself for him. "Our lives are intertwined, Alara," he said, his voice stronger than she expected. "If one of us dies, the other cannot truly live." He took the knife from her hand and, before she could stop him, cut his own palm, letting his blood drip onto the roots of the ancient oak. The earth trembled. A surge of energy pulsed through the tree, and the poisoned splinter flew from Liam's hand, landing on the ground with a soft thud. Liam collapsed, but he was alive. The poison was gone. The villagers rushed forward, their tears now tears of relief. The wedding and the death had intertwined, but not as Hemlock had foreseen. It was a death averted, a life saved by love and sacrifice. Elara and Liam were married the next day, a simple ceremony beneath the ancient oak. The joy was tempered by the memory of their near tragedy, but their love was stronger than ever. They had faced death together, and they had chosen life. They knew that their love, like the ancient oak, would endure, weathering any storm. The wind held a mournful dirge across the desolate plains of Eldoria, whipping snow into swirling dervishes that obscured the already bleak landscape. Within the fortified walls of Stonehaven, Lord Arion, his face etched with worry, paced before the hearth. His wife, Lyra, sat silently, her hands clasped tightly, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. Their son, Caelan, heir to Stonehaven, was betrothed to Elara, daughter of Lord Valerius of Silverstream, a union meant to solidify the fragile peace between their two families. Theirs was a history steeped in blood and betrayal. Generations ago, a bitter feud had erupted between the Arian and Valerius clans, a conflict fueled by greed and a lust for power. The war had ravaged the land, leaving deep scars on both families. Finally, a fragile truce had been brokered, sealed by an oath sworn before the ancient whispering stones, a promise to forget the past and forge a future of unity. But the embers of resentment still flickered beneath the surface, threatening to ignite at any moment. Caelan and Elara's betrothal was meant to be the ultimate symbol of reconciliation, a bridge between two warring factions. But it was a bridge built on shaky foundations. Caelan, though outwardly respectful, harbored a deep distrust of the Valerius clan, instilled in him by his father. Elara, known for her fiery spirit and independent nature, chafed under the weight of the political alliance, longing for a love match rather than a strategic marriage. The wedding day arrived, cloaked in an atmosphere of tense expectation. The great hall of Stonehaven was decorated with banners bearing the sigils of both families, the stoic griffin of the Arions and the flowing silver stream of the Valeriuses. Guests from both clans mingled uneasily, their smiles strained, their eyes wary. Elara, a vision in a gown of shimmering silver, walked down the aisle, her face a mask of composure. Caelan, handsome and regal in his dark attire, waited for her, his expression unreadable. The ceremony proceeded with solemn formality, the elder reciting the ancient oaths, the words echoing through the hall. By the blood of our ancestors, by the spirit of the land, we swear to uphold this union, the elder declared, his voice resonating with power. Caelan and Elara exchanged vows, their voices barely audible. They sealed their union with a kiss, a chaste peck that lacked any genuine warmth. The crowd erupted in polite applause, but the underlying tension remained palpable. As the celebrations began, Caelan and Elara found themselves drawn into separate circles. Caelan was surrounded by his father's advisors, discussing matters of state and strategy, their words laced with suspicion towards the Valerius clan. Elara, meanwhile, was surrounded by her own kin, who whispered warnings about the Arions' ruthlessness and their thirst for power. Despite the festivities, Caelan and Elara felt a growing sense of unease. They were trapped in a political game, pawns in a chess match played by their families. They longed for a connection, a genuine understanding, but the weight of their family histories pressed down on them, suffocating any chance of real intimacy. Later that night, as the celebrations continued, a commotion broke out in the courtyard. A messenger arrived from Silverstream, bearing grim news. Lord Valerius had been assassinated, a dagger plunged into his heart. Suspicion immediately fell upon the Arians. Calin was stunned. He knew his father had never truly trusted Valerius, but he couldn't believe he would resort to such a drastic measure. Elara, however, was consumed by grief and rage. She accused the Arians of treachery, of breaking the sacred oath sworn before the Whispering Stones. The fragile peace shattered. The wedding feast turned into a battlefield of accusations and recriminations. The ancient feud, which had simmered beneath the surface for so long, erupted with renewed fury. Elara, consumed by a thirst for revenge, vowed to avenge her father's death. She rallied her clan, preparing for war. Calin, torn between his loyalty to his family and his growing feelings for Elara, tried to reason with her, but his words fell on deaf ears. The war between Stonehaven and Silverstream raged once more, tearing the land apart. Calin and Elara, once betrothed, now found themselves on opposite sides of the conflict, their paths diverging down a bloody and treacherous road. Years passed. The war dragged on, a cycle of violence and retribution. Calin and Elara, hardened by loss and betrayal, became leaders of their respective factions, their hearts filled with bitterness and regret. One fateful day, they met on the battlefield, their armies arrayed before them. They faced each other, their eyes filled with pain and the weight of their shared history. They knew that this confrontation could only end in tragedy. As they clashed, their swords meeting in a shower of sparks, they saw a vision, a memory of their wedding day, of the oaths they had sworn, of a hope for peace that had been so cruelly shattered. In that moment, they realized the futility of their conflict. They were bound by their shared history, by the oaths sworn by their ancestors. They were trapped in a cycle of violence, perpetuating the feud that had plagued their families for generations. They lowered their swords, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and emotion. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with understanding and a glimmer of hope. They called for a truce, their voices ringing out across the battlefield. Their armies, surprised by their sudden change of heart, slowly lowered their weapons. Calin and Elara met once more, not as enemies, but as two people bound by a shared destiny. They spoke of the pain and the loss, of the mistakes they had made. They realized that the only way to break the cycle of violence was to forgive, to let go of the past, and to embrace the possibility of a new beginning. They renewed their vows, not as a political alliance, but as a testament to their love and their commitment to peace. They pledged to rebuild their shattered world, to heal the wounds of the past, and to forge a future where their families could finally live in harmony. The oath of two families, once a symbol of division, became a symbol of unity. It was a long and arduous journey, but Calin and Elara, together, were determined to walk it, hand in hand, towards a brighter future.